It's been a long time. It's nice seeing you, Mr. Richard.
Yes, it's so nice seeing you again, sister. Hope you
Oh
are doing.
God. Sorry?
I hope you are doing fine, sir.
Yes, I am. I am. Thank you.
Okay, so without further ado, I would just like us to get into it.
Okay.
Um, so basically, sir, can you introduce yourself? We'd like to know you.
Okay. My name is. Should I put Mr. now? Anyway, my name is Oluyemi Bright Aboyewa. Most people like to call me Bright. I think I just like the name because it's kind of
Yeah.
something I roll with, you know. And yeah, I'm a second year PhD student at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, in the United States, at the Department of Biomedical Engineering, where I'm looking into cardiovascular MRI application. MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. And what we do is to try to help kids with implants and try to see how we can come up with safe method to image these patients for medical diagnostic purpose. So that's what I do as a student. Yeah.
Awesome. So nice. Okay. Before I start asking the questions, I just want you to have the overview of why this session is coming up. So basically, you know, the, there's a need for young minds, especially in this part of the world, to be properly exposed to the right um, things generally, because our society is lacking role models that can shape people's paradigms and that can actually motivate people to pursuing great things and things that will make the society better. Currently our society is just a reflection of um, the mindset of different celebrities, picking alcohol, sex, drugs, and all those things through music and social media platforms, whatever it is. So I could see because I'm a teacher and I've dealt with young minds, and I could see that probably the entertainment world or something has so much influence on them. Many of them are not focus oriented. They are not vision driven. They don't have any passion to even contribute anything to society. Probably because there are probably few role models, good role models, let me put it like that, to emulate and people that can really challenge them to critical thinking and solutions, creating solutions. So this is why this section is coming up to encourage and motivate people that probably want to dare to, you know, do something big, and then of course, through your testimony and experience to be able to motivate them that this is actually possible in spite of their struggles or probably their limitations. So this is general overview of this section, and we love that. I would like that the experience will really, really shape people's thought process. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us.
It's
So
nice being here. Thank you.
the next question is how did you start your career journey, or how did your career journey start?
Oh, it's quite interesting, and I mean, it's a long story. Everyone has a long story, but I'll try to just pick the highlights of the thing. So, obviously, when as a young person in high school, I was just like thinking of multiple things. Be a civil engineer, I can be a doctor, even a soccer player, or what have you. So there's always like, I want to be this, I want to be that. So somehow I found myself doing physics. Well, skip all the story. Found myself doing physics electrode footer. And the next question was, what else physics actually, what am I going to get out of it? Because it's often you hear that school is a scam. I mean, physics doesn't, what do you want to do with this? Right? Even my dad was like, you will end up being a teacher, right? It's not as if being a teacher is bad, but I mean and he's saying this out of genuine and love for his child. So it's not out of like trying to spite me, like of a deep concern of a parent, right? Which every parent have, every good parent. I mean. Interestingly, how I got to the field I'm working in also came from him. So my second year, I went to Federal University of Technology, Akure for my undergrad. One year at FUTA, my dad came home from work and he was like, there was someone that came to visit, and that physicist who just came back from Ukraine. I never met her. I don't know her. She just came back from Ukraine, and then my dad was like, "Oh, my son is also doing physics." And then she's like, and they got talking, and then she mentioned something like medical physics. So when my dad came home, I guess that was what he would remember. I had this person came over to my office, and then we talked, and she mentioned medical physics. That was the first time I heard the word medical physics, right? So immediately I heard that, I started like, what does this mean? Like, what is medical physics? I started looking into it. Prior to that time, I'd always been searching,
Mm.
how can I apply what I've learned? I mean, it's not just going to be, it's not like an abstract word that there is a real life, right? There is a reality. And then whatever I'm learning has to contribute to that reality in that sense, into my reality in the real sense. So it's not like as if there should be a non-correlation between what I'm doing in class and what is happening around me. I should be able to relate them. So I've always been looking for, how do I apply my field? And then when I got to know about medical physics, then I started looking it up. So I found that it was interesting because it has to do with medical stuff, especially radiation therapy for cancer patients, and then diagnosis. We obtain a lot of imaging, doctors to make decisions when they want to treat a patient, the likes of the CT, MRI, ultrasound, and the likes. And so I found that it was interesting, even in radiation safety, like nuclear and all of you. So I started, interest. I often tell people interest is built. You might be good at something naturally, but that doesn't mean you can do other things, because you can actually build interest, right? You can build no matter what it is. So learning. So that was my second year. For 5 years. So from second year, my fifth year, I was building up more knowledge field. I started looking at countries where the field was were being practiced and how it is done there. What are the requirements to start out a career in this field of degree do I need? What kind of uh who is who in this field in the real sense. So I started looking into that. I found a couple of schools in the UK, I found a couple of schools in the US, in Australia, and the likes. And then in Nigeria too, there were a couple of schools like Unilag and some schools in the north that were also doing medical physics then. So I'll quickly wrap up so I don't like answer all of your question in one response. But that was how I got into medical physics, and it's kind of interesting. It's a long story between how I go from that 200 level student to my PhD now in the same field. It's quite interesting. So I would just leave it up on there, and hopefully your next question helps me continue in the way.
All right.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm able to deduce from that is that you actually found it even and when you started studying physics, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that answers the question that okay, everything might not be fully formed until probably you progress in a journey or something like that. That's what I'm trying to
Mhm.
say. Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, yes.
So what's your drive and motivation, sir?
Oh well. I grew up as a Christian, from Christian background, and I think for me, we all have as a Christian, we have a role model, right? We have a role model. Like, I see God's creativity,
Mm,
I see his genuineness, and it's like his excellence in terms of its interaction with things, right? As a physicist, I'm amazed, because science would be meaningless without a creator, in the sense that order. You
mm,
have order. That is, I can wake up today and predict what will happen in the next 30 years by just a physics equation. And it's because there is an order.
mm,
I could easily say the temperature is going to be this tomorrow. I could easily say, I mean, if I throw this thing up, it's going to come down. So I'm able to study all these things as a physicist, because that's what I've come to see nature as. And nature have this intelligence that we're able to interact with, which shows it's not a chaotic thing that's just, you know, out there. There is some form of order. And the other thing I see is that it's designed for man, right? Because it's like yes, we could have order, but that doesn't mean we could survive in that kind of order. But like the way it is, it's like it's designed for man. And so it's like there is an intention to make something for people to survive, for people to live, for people to enjoy, right? And that's the thing. So I see that as the essence of the word. Yes, there are natural disasters, there are chaos here and there, war, fighting, and all of those things in human relation. But that idea kind of make me feel like there is a lot to contribute to life in the sense that by design, things seems to be for us. So I feel like, yes, I should be able to make a meaningful contribution in that sense to like help people in the sense that, and my field also make me to get to, I mean, know people in a different way. I put it this way. I put it this way, like if I, as I'm talking to you, I'm only seeing your face, right?
Okay.
I'm seeing your face. This I put it in a weird way, and that's scriptural, right? Because Bible says, "Man look at the outward, right? God only look at the inward because He knows the heart. We don't know the heart." And so I see your face, but see what's inside you. I mean, inside your body, right? So that's a different relationship. That's an intimate relationship. I can easily ascertain if you're medically fit or you're not medically fit, right? Because these doctors can say, "Oh, I see something in the liver," right? It's beyond just, "Oh, you're putting on suits, I'm seeing your face." So it takes the relationship a little bit further, right? To help the person to realize something, a state of well-being, right? So in that sense, that field gives me the opportunity to meet people on a different level, not just face. I can see what's inside this person. This is a CT scan of this person's chest and blah blah blah, right? So that's another weird way I put it. So again, it's this famous quote of doing things for the greater good in the real sense, because it allows us to help people going and the likes. And another legitimate reason why people work or go to a field is also to earn a living, which is a legitimate thing, because you life, or as it is, has to do with physical transactions, right? You have to get money to pay for this, to pay for that. And being in a field like this allows me to earn my living in a legitimate way, not cutting corners, and allows me to, while I'm contributing to make people's life better, I'm contributing to help people understand more about themselves, not just from the physical perspective of what's inside them in terms of diagnosis. I'm also earning a living in a legitimate way. That way, I do not constitute nuisance to the society. So yeah, it's a multiple benefit in that sense, and multiple reasons. One, to earn a living; two, to contribute to human life, and like so, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I'm just curious, medical physics, is it much more about diagnosis and is it also inclusive of engineering and product design, probably for whatever it is that they want to test or something? So I'm just curious.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to practice it. A lot of times there is high overlap between medical physics and biomedical engineering. Actually, I'm doing my PhD in biomedical engineering. My master's was in medical physics, but there is a lot of overlap. So in medical physics, we do more of cancer treatment with radiation therapy. So if you see a lot of medical physicists, 70% of them are doing radiation therapy, where we have these machines where once the patient is diagnosed, and before that diagnosis, there has to be imaging, right? There'll be a couple of imaging and then biopsy. Biopsy, they can take tissue samples to check what is the grade of this cancer. Is it stage 1? Is it stage 2? Is it stage 3? Like that. So the doctors do all those things. And when they check from their multiple, recommend the person for either chemotherapy or radiation therapy, right? And then there comes the medical physicist to help plan that treatment to ensure that the patient get the amount of radiation that the doctor says, right? And then, so that's one aspect. So 70% of medical physicists are in radiation therapy. The other parts are in diagnosis, where we have CT, MRI, ultrasound, and nuclear medicine. Because you need these people to do calibration of these machines. You need us to test that this system is behaving right. We need to calibrate, we need to commission them, like get all the parameters right, so that when you are imaging a patient, for instance, if you are using modalities with ionizing radiation, you want to keep your dose as low as possible and all of other stuff. So the medical physicists come in for quality assurance. Okay, yeah.
You can
You
continue, sir.
combine right?
No
Okay.
problem.
So in diagnostics too, you find us do a lot because some generic approach might not be useful for some patients. Like the kind of patient population I'm looking at, they have implants. So a typical protocol in MRI that will work for a patient with implants might not work for them. So I have to come up with another method of looking at those patients. Then if you want to look at the engineering perspective, physics and engineering, like engineering takes from physics takes from engineering. So it depends on how you want to practice the field. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, sir. Now, considering the fact that you did pure physics in school and switching to medical physics, was it challenging, or what the challenges you face in adapting? I probably know that it's a new form of knowledge, or probably a little bit advanced. Were there challenges or something like that?
Yeah, there are. I think at every stage, there are a couple of things one needs to have, which is the internal or intrinsic motivation. That's what gets you started. And then when that is burning down, then you need external support, right? Like there has to be this drive internally that, okay, I want to do this. Yes, it's not a single field, it's a combination of fields, right? I have to do neurophysiology, I have to take radiation biology, I have to take cardiovascular systems, I have to look at the digestive system and all of those stuff. I have to do some other things that's outside pure math, right? Because physics is just math. We're just like putting some assumptions to some mathematical stuff. That's physics, right? But like I had to go outside of these to learn all of those other things, right? I'm not an expert in those things. I can never be an expert. I'm not a doctor. But the point is, you have to, like, there is that combination of fields. So, what keeps one going, even if it's challenging or if you're a genius, it may not be. The point is, there has to be that intrinsic motivation first. I find them interesting. Again, like I said, I didn't grow up saying I want to be a medical physicist. I found it and then I developed interest. I looked at it more and more and more and more, and I get to like it. And because I'm now in the field, I enjoy it more in that regard. So yes, it's challenging having to combine multiple stuffs. Yeah, it is, but that motivation keeps one going. And another thing is seeing other people doing uh, those challenging stuff itself is also another motivation, right? Because the people who created the field, wrote these textbooks, and all, they don't have two heads, right? So it's like, oh yeah, if this person can do it, it's a pointer to what can be done. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to do exactly what the person did. I may not be as intelligent as that person by default, but it's a pointer to the fact that this thing is possible. And in that sense, you want to see, oh, people can do this. Then if I put a little bit of effort, maybe I can. Maybe I don't get to that level, but at least I would know I tried. So it's that form of uh, and seeing examples that kind of like help to keep one going. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for that, sir. Then I would like to ask some other questions. Your study abroad, is it funded through scholarship or sponsorship or personally?
Uh, well, my PhD in the US, I would say 95% of PhDs in the US are free funded. And if you're doing PhD, unlike the UK is like 3 years, US is like 5 years average. You can go beyond five, you can finish before five, but it's fully funded. You're going to have tuition. Your tuition is going to be paid. Your health insurance, which is important. A lot of people think scholarship is just about school fees. No, that's like health insurance, right? Because medical stuff is really expensive outside Nigeria, right? So health insurance is there, and then there are monthly stipend, which is how you live, right? Because again, these are expensive countries. Your house rent can be taken almost 50% of your earnings, right? So you need a form of means to live. So those things are in the PhD. And sometimes you even get additional fellowship from the school or out external fellowship to do your external grants to do your research if you're a student in the field that is promising in that sense. That's PhD. For masters, it's mixed, a little bit mixed, because it turns out that most of the time in the US, a lot of students will go from undergrad straight to PhD. So you find a lot of people go from undergrad straight to PhD. So masters is kind of in between. So most times it's hard to get full funding, but there are a lot of full funding as well. So when I wanted to do my masters in Nebraska, my I would say my program was almost 80% funded uh, for my masters. So there were students who had full funding because of what they were doing. They were doing physics. I was doing medical physics, which is an applied discipline. So the scholarship for the two of us were different in that sense. So for those that were doing physics, they had full funding. I that I was doing medical physics, I had about like 80%. At the end of the day, the other 20% came from the money I was spending. Like I had to, we worked it out. So it's kind of almost like full. The other department in the same school, like pharmacy, biomedical sciences, and the likes, a lot of them were like full scholarship. So sometimes it's depending on the school or depending on the department, right? So in the US, most of this funding comes directly from the department. Like the department people, professors, and they apply for grants, they get money, so they hire students in that sense. So and yeah, so funding um for PhDs almost always full, 95% of the time. Masters, I can guarantee 95%, but I think 70% of the time you can still get a fully funded master's. Yeah, and undergrad, a lot of people here, what they do at undergraduate is to collect student loan. They get loan, they go through structures, so it's kind of mixed, yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Also, I would also like to ask, what is your vision for the future? Probably some of the things we should expect from you in the future. And of course, is your motivation problem solving based or probably money based?
Anyway, it's not my motivation is not money based, because I mean, uh just like Bible says that wisdom is a defense, money is also a defense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh it's not money based. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I guess by default you're born into life and you have to live, right? You have to live. It's about what do you want to live by, right? Oh, like how do you want to live? How do you want to be remembered? Uh yeah, it's not no one would deny that in the process they'll have to earn a living. I'm trying to be realistic in the sense that you have to earn a living, right? But it's not money based. I guess there is more to life than money. There is more to life. Putting smiles on people's faces, and some things you think somebody will probably do it. What if nobody do it? Like you would think that someone would do it, someone would do it. I mean, I'm not the only one on earth, so how relevant am I that my country? I mean, technically, if you take me out of medical physics today, I don't think anything will happen to the world of medical physics. I think it will still continue to grow, right? It's more or less like, am I really needed to do medical physics? Like if they cancel my PhD now, with the whole of US scattered, no, it won't. Anyway, so it's like, what's my importance? But I guess there uh future goals are to be able to work in a research institution, right? To be able to contribute to advancing the field. There's always advancement, new challenges. For instance, COVID came and there was someone leading that forefront in the US. For instance, Dr. Fauci was all over the place trying to come up with guidelines, trying to come up with all of these. Those were things he learned from school, right? He had to have gotten those background to be able to undo real life scenario, real life situation, to be able to come up with guidelines that, or else we could have lost, like this kind of stuff could have wiped out a lot of people. So that was him using his knowledge to contribute to well-being, right? So it's I guess a lot of times for people who feels like maybe their mentor is a musician, I guess the point should just be just add 20 years to your life, like add 20 years, add 15 years, and kind of imagine what you will be at that time. Like what kind of utility will the world derive from you in the real sense, like in that you kind of look at the fact that everybody has something to offer in that sense. So what exactly do you want to offer the world? Is it as part of the problem or as part of the solution? So for me, I guess the motivation is just, I think it's intrinsic for Christians, right? In a way, to have a good mindset. You've like you just have a good mindset and you want to do good in that sense. So I don't have the money motivation. I don't have the money motivation in quote, but yes, you need money to do things. But they, by the way, if you're doing your stuff, you're gonna earn money. It's not like I'm running after money. No, I'm running after just making meaningful contributions in any little way I can. Yeah.
Thanks so much. So, I'd like to ask, what's the work environment like and the learning space? And of course, have you had probably any experience in the industry, probably something like an internship or probably proper work experience? So, just
Well, yeah, before I came to the US, in Nigeria, I did some volunteering training, like just a volunteering. I had a volunteering period, so much like I had a mentor, a coach who was kind of putting me through. You get a lot around here where you have people who are kind of like guiding you, but it's not the same in Nigeria. So people kind of just choose mentors anyhow, or by default follow a popular person. But I got to meet a professor, one of my lecturers in Futa, who like told me about a lady that was doing medical physics. So I met with her, we talked, and she kind of shaped my understanding about the field. And so I started looking into conference opportunities to attend. I was able to attend one in Abuja then. And then before my NYC, when I finished, I volunteered to work under a professor at Unilag. He was a lecturer at Unilag and he was also working at the Cancer Center in Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. So he was doing both jobs. So I volunteered under him. I told him, you don't have to pay me. I just want to come and learn because I'm passionate about this field. Then I was with him for a couple of months, for like 4 months before my NYSC. And then after my NYSC, I came back to continue for another 4 months. So that was a kind of like a little experience in Nigeria before I got my admission to do my master's in medical physics. I was able to work at some cancer centers, just going to shadow for him. A lot of time when he's in class, I'll be the one standing in for him at the hospital in that sense. And so that was my experience there before I came to the US. In the US, during my course, I've also done some internship. Like it's an internship that was built into the program. For me, I had to like rotate around cancer centers, like 3 of them in 3 months. So we had to like do some rotation, just observe what people are doing in that sense. And then back to, I guess, the highlights. I don't so much have industrial experience outside of hospital,
okay.
outside of the hospital because that's my field. And then the bulk part of it is in the research lab.
Okay.
It's in the research lab. So if you want to count that as an industrial experience, because when you're doing research, I think workplace is workplace, right? The workplace relationship is the main thing.
Yeah.
Whether you're in the industry or you're not in the industry, it just means your focus is different in terms of the output, in terms of work.
Mm-hmm.
But the is still the workplace, right? If you're in the hospital, you're in a kind of environment where you have to learn the culture of that environment. For instance, patient confidentiality and all of those stuff, how you go around in the hospital, you're kind of dressing and all of those things. And then if you're in a lab setting, then you also have another space where you have different kind of relationship to build with people like higher colleagues, people in higher level in the program, or postdocs, those that are finished their PhD but still doing active research in that sense. So it's if you want to say industry, but obviously it's different from stuff like working at Amazon or Google or something like that. They're totally different. But I guess the main thing is having this workplace environment kind of experience. Yeah, it's the same thing in a way.
Thank you so much. So we have about 3 questions in 6 minutes. So I'd love you to help us out. So is your environment friendly? Is it a racist environment or something? So how have you been able to cope in a new culture? And of course, how have you been thriving?
Oh well. So US is probably better than a lot of countries when it comes to racism. US is
Okay.
probably better. I mean, US are in the media a lot because obviously this is a country where you can virtually do anything in the sense that there are a lot of people active on social media. So if you mess up, they're going to put you out there. Unlike some other countries where there are some restrictions, so you don't even get to see the worst of the worst from other countries. One terrible thing about the US is the gun violence. That's like the major thing. I think it's even worse than racism. Racism is everywhere. I mean, even in Nigeria, tribalism and all of those stuff, those are racism too in a form. But I think my approach, my mindset to things have always been everywhere you go, you meet good people, you meet bad people. I've seen people that helped me out a lot in this place. I've seen people who have gone out of their way to make sacrifice, spend their time, spend their resources, spend their energy to do things for me here in the US. Right. I've been at the grocery store and a random person that I don't even know pay for my stuff. And I've also seen people abuse me, right? Like I've had an encounter where somebody threw something at me on the road, right? That was like in when I was in Nebraska, and that was the only encounter in that sense. That was like at a few weeks when I just got to the US.
Oh,
But in that same people, I saw people paying. So kind of like it's just it depends on the person in with. That's why I don't like to put a name tag like oh the Igbos, the Yorubas, this no the white. I mean it just depends on that individual.
oh, oh.
Okay, I think yeah, it was a little bit. So you have a whole lot of people. So it depends on your own how you take those things, right? I just feel, oh, that I mean, I'm going to sit down cow and say, hey, somebody did this, blah, 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 and that and that. I mean, that person obviously maybe has a mental issue and need urgent help, right? Because if you put the two of us on the stage, I'll probably be more brilliant than the guy or lady. So I mean, it doesn't mean anything to me because I have a self-esteem in that sense. So for me personally, and I think living in the US for me, some things are cultural shock. You will experience that. It's a fast country. You get
Oh,
going or you get left behind. It's a fast country, so you can't come to a place like this without a purpose. You're going to get lost in
oh,
that reason because the society is very fast and it is profit oriented. Everything is profit. Everything is profit driven, profit oriented. So you either get going or you get lost. That's it. So anyone who want to come to a place like this has to be focused, goal driven, purpose oriented in that sense, or else you are going to get yourself like muddled up in a lot of things that might not be what you plan starting out. And I guess personally for me, culturally, I kind of maintain my traditional Nigerian culture in that sense. You would even see me. I'm not. You see some folks they'll come to the US and within maybe a month they start changing their donation, how they sound. I've been in the US for about 3 years. I'm not going to change the way I speak. That
mm,
doesn't that doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's not a big deal. If you can't hear me how I speak, I'll repeat myself again. So it's just like that. And this same US, some people will come within 2 months. You start hearing them speaking Queen's English. I'm like, when did you get here? Anyway, but like there are a lot of things. So I have an identity and I'm proud of it. So culturally, I'm able to merge both. People appreciate that, right? People appreciate it. I'm able to merge both. I eat Nigerian food. I cook my food myself. I eat Nigerian food. I tell them, hey guys, this is your cheese. I don't really like it. It doesn't taste well to me, right? You guys love it. It's fine. It's good. It's what you grew up with, but I can't eat this, right? And we laugh about it. We do that. Sometimes I cook a goosey with eba. I take it to them to eat. This food is spicy. Just I better go try it. No, it's actually spicy because they don't eat a lot of spicy. So culturally, I'm able to like keep my identity. I'm an African, I'm a Nigerian. And at the same time, I'm learning to respect their culture, to learn uh, how to talk in public to them in that way. How do they process things and like it's kind of different. What's the meaning of friendship and all of this stuff is different in different culture and different contexts. So I'm able to learn all those things as much as I can. And one thing I love in the US is you cannot assume. You cannot assume anything. You have to be clear about whatever it is. You have to either ask questions, oh, I don't know this, or you can't assume, right? There's always you can assume in that sense. So it's one big culture that I love so much and allows us to avoid unnecessary stuff. Oh, I thought you were listening. You're not talking to that person, like because it's difficult, so you're also listening, right? It's like all those things allows them to avoid any conflict of interest or complicated scenario. So no assumption. So I learned their culture as much as I can, but again, I maintain my identity because nothing stops you from maintaining your identity anywhere you go in the world, right? Nothing stops you. They are not going to say stop being who you are because you are now in their country. No, it's just like before leaving Nigeria. Sorry, I'm probably running out of time here, but just like before leaving Nigeria, you hear a lot about, oh, if you go to the US, you're probably not going to be a Christian anymore. They are this, they are that. I mean, it's a country where you can choose to be whatever you want. If you want to be a Christian, if you want to be a Christian, don't be a Christian. In the US, nobody cares, right? Here you see vibrant people that are so deep, right? You can also work with those people, and then you see people who are like they don't even believe that there is God. I mean, that's the word that's it. It's just what do you want to choose? So again, I guess the highlight of what I'm saying is that I try to maintain my identity, who I am, because I have a self-esteem, and at the same time, I try to learn as much as I can about their culture. In that sense, so that I can be able to integrate myself and bond with their society. In that sense. About learning in the US, I think most times I don't like to compare Nigeria education with the education here, right? Because I've seen both. So I don't like to compare it most times because there's nothing to compare. Anyway, it's good. It's good for someone to have a. Obviously, I won't be in the US without the Nigerian education I got, so I'm not going to totally condemn Nigerian education. But again, I think coming to a place like this is it's a good decision. If you want to be an academician, say for instance you want to be an academician or you want to uh it doesn't necessarily have to be because you want to be an academician, because again, okay, think about it like this. Just off the point. This is off the point. You can just write this side. Olamide is singing, right? But somebody make the microphone he's using, right? The equalizers that he's using in the studio, somebody made them, right? There are programs in the US that are just about stage design, how you design a stage for an event, right? I like you're setting stage for a movie, you're setting up the stage for. I'm just trying to tell, like, it's not just about, oh, because somebody wants to become a professor. It can be because you need some specific skill set for your field, for like a particular aspect of that. Even Cristiano Ronaldo that like played football is on Instagram. That's a software that somebody wrote, right? He has a lot of people, he has brand, all these things. I mean, what I'm just trying to say in essence is you would see the relevance of education in almost everything, right? So at first, just to say that school is not a scam at all, it's not. It's like the one thing everybody must get. So if your mindset is about learning and maybe in your field you kind of see how the career trajectory is and you realize that you would need to have an advanced degree or a specific knowledge. I think US is a good place to learn because most of the school environments actually train you. You are a student. You don't. Most of the things you need in the US university is just to present yourself. I want to learn. Then the school is going to mold you itself. There are opportunities, how you can go from class to industry, how you can even patent your work if you're able to do something that is novel, how you can get funding,
mm,
They encourage you to attend conferences, to write research articles, to participate in different committees, to participate in different society and all of other stuff. So it's a place that if you just present yourself and all you say, oh, I'm just here to learn, and they're going to teach you and they're going to mold you. So that's a US educational system for you. It's a really good educational system where you don't need to be extra brilliant. You don't need to be super. You just need to say, I want to learn and leave the rest for the school. They're going to mold you in that sense. So in terms of that, if you're considering learning and this, and I think US is a good place, and US is very thorough.
mm,
I have a bias towards US, not UK, because UK likes money. You come with your money and you have to pay, they probably give you 40% funding and then you pay 60%, and then your master's is like 1 year. US, your master's going to at most maybe 18 months, at least maybe 18 months. It's going to be 2 years. You do a PhD in the UK for 3 years, US is like 5 years, right? They're all over the same. So it depends on what you want. So different countries, it's just my own bias. Another person can say something different about UK, right? It's just my own bias.
mm,
And same thing in Canada. There are other countries to Canada, Australia, they are all there. Germany, right? All these countries. So if and it's not compulsory, right? I've also seen people that do a lot of stuff back at home in Nigeria without going out. One of my best professor at FUTA, I've never left Nigeria, but it was better than some of the people that left Nigeria. It was better
mm,
than them. It was the most concise. He doesn't need to look at textbook to teach. He doesn't need to inform his own exam question. It's not like he's just going to copy and paste somewhere, right? And get solution and even confuse student and himself, right? And he has never left Nigeria. He learned all those things himself, right? Yes, he might be limited a little bit, but he's that good. He did not need to travel out. And then I've read some paper in MRI in my field that were written by some professor in Nigeria too. Yes, that other person studied outside, but is currently in Nigeria as a professor and is one of the leading experts in that field in Nigeria. Right. Right. So it depends. It depends on what you want. It depends on what you want. If it's I want to not just the mindset of money, 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 money. No, it depends on what you want. When I was younger, just by the way, when I was younger, if you ever told me I would be in the US, I would. You can't say a prayer like that for me, and I'll say Amen. I won't. If you go to
mm,
the US, I'll be like, for what? That's it for me. It's like for what? It has to be a reason. There has to be a purpose in that sense. So when I started looking at schools, I started with UK. So I could have been in the UK if I had found that my career or my field has more prospect in the UK in the sense that it has a well-defined trajectory. But I
mm,
found that in the US, it was already planned. How you go from the master's program to the clinical resident to PhD and to this to that to that. So I saw that clear path. And that's I'm like, oh, US is the place to go for this field. So for another person, it might be Australia that have that typical thing in your field. It might be uh, it might even be Cameroon, it might be Ghana, it might be wherever it's not, and it might be Nigeria there. So it depends. It depends in that real sense. I wouldn't say because you're in the US you become efficient. It doesn't matter. It depends on the trajectory in your field. But if it's about education, we can compare education system. We can compare the systems. Like, okay, this is how I experienced Nigeria system. I was just left on my own. It was like I can't say I received email from FUTA like 2 or 3 times for 5 years in FUTA. I can't say I received email, right? Just to tell me that this is what is going on campus. I don't think I did for a whole 5 years of my life, right? I was just there, left alone. You either check notice board or nothing. But here it's like right from first day, you are bombarded with emails telling you things that you can benefit from, right? In that sense. So education system is different. But as to being efficient, I think it has to depend on what you're planning at the long run, which country better suits your field. Is it Nigeria? Is it another African country? Is it outside? Yeah, I'll just repeat that.
Thanks so much, sir. We're grateful. So let me just ask this final question. Um, you are a believer, which I'm very aware of. As your faith probably affected your work ethics, ideas, and all that, because we read in the scriptures how that Daniel was better than his peers, and of course David was saying that your word is my meditation, I understand more than my teachers and all that. As your faith probably helped your understanding or the rate which you process things, is there a relationship?
Well, there is a relationship because I feel like what Christianity gives you is a mindset.
Mm,
What it gives you is a mindset because if you check all of the scriptures, when the promise was being made, God was like, I would take away the heart of stone and give you the heart of flesh.
mm,
Right? Is no man we need to tell their neighbor, know the Lord. For everyone we know me from the least to the greatest. There is a
mm,
knowing, right?
mm,
So it's like the love of God has been shed abroad in our hearts, blah, blah,
mm,
blah. So
mm,
essentially what it's doing is like it's transforming our mindset,
mm,
right? And that's why Paul will say that do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so you can
mm,
prove your body and blah blah blah. Like in the sense that what Christianity does to you is to change your mind, and
mm,
so and that is where the issue of life flows from,
mm,
right? That is where the substance how we interact with things. One thing about science is that it's not just about the results you get when you do an
mm,
experiment, it's about how you
mm,
interpret that result.
mm,
But how do you interpret? Your interpretation is where the communication is. Okay, I
mm,
got that x plus this, everything. When I mix it, I got two. What does two mean? That's the
mm,
next question, right? So, in that sense, Christianity has given me that mindset, that world view to be able to relate with things from a pure perspective without an hidden agenda when I'm doing things like in my field. I'm not biased towards making sure the results disprove this or prove like in the real sense, I'm played in that sense
mm,
because I'm coming with your mindset to
mm,
engage my work. And that also gives me the understanding that if I am like God,
mm,
as the scripture says,
mm,
then I have the same excellence as he
mm,
did because he made me in his image. And so I
mm,
have the understanding that, okay, I am going to be excellent and I
mm,
shouldn't fail. If
mm,
I fail, there has to be a reason and blah 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 in that sense. So I
mm,
shouldn't fail. I believe in that okay, there is a measure of excellence, right? There is a
mm,
measure of wisdom that I have in the real sense to be able to understand the wisdom of this world, right? Learning is like the
mm,
wisdom of this world in that
mm,
sense. So in and another thing for me is that it also helps me to find God in many
mm,
things,
mm,
right? Like I told you, I look at you see today people talk about black holes, people talk about other planets, people talk about
mm,
things. Those things are amazing. They
mm.
are amazing. Like they just blow your mind away,
True, sir.
right?
True, sir.
People look at the stars, they look at the I mean, so it's just when I was at Creighton where I did my master's, it
Sir.
happens that Creighton is a Jesuit school, which
Mm,
is a Catholic school. So
mm,
it's the Catholic body that kind of like established the school.
mm,
So
mm,
they kind of put some Christian stuff like a seminar, like a
mm,
retreat in some of their program, and I enjoyed it. And one of the famous quotes that I think I still remember from Creighton is that God can be found in everything.
mm,
God can be found in everything, and that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me because if you look at
mm,
Proverbs, for instance,
mm,
wisdom was like, I'm at the city gates, I'm
mm,
sitting down at I'm sitting down at the marketplace.
mm,
Wisdom can be found everywhere in that
mm,
sense, which is kind of similar to like the idea that God can be found in everything. Another example I can give is the what Jesus said. This
mm,
is subtle. I don't usually do this, use a scripture for what it's not, but this is
mm,
subtle in the sense
mm,
that Jesus was like, Solomon in all of his glory was
mm,
not arranged like the grass of the field.
mm,
That's not the point he's trying to make is different, but
mm,
that is something to pause and think about. The grass of the field has a lot of glory. That's
mm,
crazy. And Solomon in all of his wealth and in all of his glory is not even as close as
mm,
the grass of the field, which tells you that the grass of the field has a lot to offer.
mm,
Right? In
mm,
that sense. So, but again, Jesus was like, as much as it is, we just throw it in the pan, we turn it to flour, we make bread, we make
mm,
cake in the oven, and blah blah blah. But the point is, God can be found in everything. These things
mm,
brings us closer to God. Romans will tell you God makes himself, even though it's invisible, he used the visible things of this world to demonstrate his existence, right? So
mm,
they cannot really say that they don't know that there is a God because the things he has made, the things that are visible to demonstrate his invisible nature. In
mm,
that sense, so yes, so to summarize what I said, Christianity gives me a mindset,
mm,
brings this pure mind to the things I'm doing. I'm not doing things with hidden agenda.
mm,
And it allows me, and beyond just doing things, it also allows me to connect with people, right? I'm able to relate with a colleague. I'm not out there out of envy and trying to ruin people. If you're not a Christian and you're like in a field like this and you're like in a country like this where everything is for profit, where everything is for gain, then you're probably like, you just want to match on anybody and move on. Right. But as a Christian, I know that I have to show love. And so outside of just learning, it also comes to the relationship, because I'm not learning in a vacuum, right? I'm learning with people. And so how to show kindness, how to even know that I'm wrong and admit if I'm wrong and apologize, right? It comes from that mindset in the real sense, to show love to people. And not just, and right from the mindset, Christianity gives me a mindset to be able to approach things. That also allows me to appreciate things and look at how God demonstrates himself through those things. That's why I said the famous quote, God can be found in almost everything. That in that way, you'll be amazed at the parables of Jesus, how he used physical things to talk about spiritual things, right? How he used physical things, because he knows that our world will relate with the physical, and he came down to that level to make all those things as a parable. He spoke mostly in parables, right? That's and so yeah, that's how Christianity have helped me, and it helps me to trust and pray, because sometimes people talk about mental health, people talk about all these things. I mean, I can retrieve back to the corner of my room and kneel down because God hears me, and then I'm like, I'm in a deep trouble. What do I do? I don't know. I'm confused. I'm this, I'm that, and then we exchange our thoughts. We just rub my in that sense, and then I'm able to exchange that anxiety for his peace in that sense. So it comes in a lot of ways. Being a Christian and being in academia, being a person generally, it allows me to take all these activities in the world and draw back and like reflect and see what do I take out of these, and what do I need to pray about? What do I need to tell? I pray about things in that sense, because that's what Bible says men always ought to do, right? We should pray and we should not faint. So that's the way I think bringing Christianity to my living in that sense has been really, really helpful, and yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I mean, your contribution is so much appreciated, and it will really go a long way. And you've really helped us, because today is October 1st. Redmade, the platform started 4 years ago in 2018, and of course we've been in the business of shaping minds to actually be responsible, in the faith and of course in the secular system. Now that it's not just about being in existence, following the normal pattern, getting married and all those things we do, but at least making contributions. Because I could see that some people are willing, but they don't have the proper exposure. Probably their minds are not properly exposed to the right things. And I believe that this will actually trigger a lot of things. And I've really learned a lot, and there are things I'm really going to do even from this conversation. Thank you so much for your time and for the sacrifice.
Thank you for
I'm so
inviting
grateful.
me. I'm sorry I did not start by greeting people. I don't know. I
Uh,
guess we
uh,
just zoom into the conversation. But
no
yeah,
problem. No
good
problem.
evening, good morning, good afternoon, anyone, wherever you're watching or whenever you're watching.
No
Yeah, all right.
problem.
I'm really grateful and glad that you invited me to your platform and
Yes,
giving me the opportunity to share my story and
thank you so
help
much.
people out there. I mean, I'm sorry if some of the things I said, maybe I rambled through some of them and you'd have loved to hear more details, but I mean, we're also limited by time.
Of
So
course, of course.
anyway, yeah, thank
Thank
you
you so
very
much,
much.
sir. Yeah. My regards to your wife. I guess you'll be leaving very soon. So
Yes, I will. I will.
thank you so much. Eshegon, sir.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
Mr. Richard.
happy new month time. Yeah, have a nice day.